Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that starts with a label we all know, the bully. But, what we see on the surface is almost never the whole picture.
So, right from the start, the evidence seemed pretty clear. The first thing people saw was physical. And honestly, this is often where the story starts and stops for schools, for other parents. You see an action, you make a judgment. Simple as that.
And it wasn't just the pushing. There were these verbal outbursts, too. He'd get loud, really frustrated, anytime he felt like people weren't getting what he was trying to say. You can just picture it, can't you? The pushing, the shouting, it all adds up to that classic image of a problem child.
And so, the system reacted exactly how you'd expect. His actions got that official label, aggressive behavior, and the punishment was suspension. He was sent home. Problem solved, right? Case closed.
So that's the first chapter in this story. The official version. A kid is called a bully because of what he does. This is the question that changes absolutely everything. It is so easy to just stop at the behavior, to slap on the label and move on. But what if we don't? What happens when we decide to actually look a little deeper?
Because right under the surface of those actions, a completely different story was going on.
This was the real turning point. The label, the suspension, it was all based on an incomplete picture. There was this huge, critical piece of the puzzle that everyone was missing. And here it is. This was never a problem of character. It was a challenge of wiring. He was dealing with diagnosed neurological issues. See, language processing delays mean your brain literally struggles to make sense of the words you're hearing. And impulse control issues, that means you act on a feeling before you even have a chance to think it through. Can you imagine how unbelievably frustrating that would be every single day? And this is the heart of it all. The pushing wasn't about malice. It was a desperate, physical way to communicate when words just wouldn't come. The shouting wasn't aggression. It was the raw sound of frustration from not being understood. He wasn't a bully. He was just a little boy who felt like he was drowning because he couldn't find the words.
So what happens when you finally see the real problem? Well, you can find a real solution. And this next part of the story is all about that incredible shift from punishment to actual support.
The whole approach changed. It wasn't about saying stop that. It was about giving him the tools to start communicating. So first, they taught him some simple signs, hand gestures for when the words got stuck. Second, they gave him scripts, just some pre-planned phrases for common situations, which takes a lot of the pressure off. And third, they showed him breathing exercises to help him manage that frustration before it boiled over. This is the fundamental change right here. The goal wasn't to stop a bad behavior anymore. The goal became empowering a child with the skills he was so desperate for. It's the core of that idea: support, not suspension. And the results of making that shift? Oh, they were nothing short of transformative. Which brings us to the final and most hopeful part of his journey. As soon as he had the tools to manage his impulses and get his needs across, everything changed. That same physical strength that used to come out as pushing, it was rechanneled. That energy that once fueled his frustration was turned into something positive. He actually learned to use his words and his presence for good. I mean, the contrast here is just so stark. The story started with these labels that came from a misunderstanding: aggression, shouting, suspension. And it ended with outcomes that came from support, communication, scripts, kindness. It's a complete 180. All because a few people decided to stop and ask, wait, what is really going on here? Now, his specific challenges were language processing and impulse control, but his story is this incredible example of what's known as FASD understanding. FASD stands for Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders, and it's really a movement that's all about seeing the brain-based reasons behind a person's behavior instead of just judging the behavior itself. And that really leaves us with this final, crucial question. This boy, he was one of the lucky ones. Someone took the time to look deeper. But his story isn't all that unique. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other kids in our own schools and our own communities are being written off as bullies or troublemakers, when maybe, just maybe, They're children who can't find the words fast enough,